In 2009, deep in the stifling heat of the Cerrejón coal mine in Colombia, paleontologists were digging through the remains of a rainforest that existed 60 million years ago, just after the dinosaurs vanished. They expected ancient crocodiles, giant turtles, familiar pieces of a lost world. But then they touched something that made everyone freeze. A fossil vertebra thicker than a human wrist. Too big, too heavy, too unusual. At first, the guess seemed reasonable, a giant crocodile. In the Paleocene, crocodiles ruled the swamps. But the shape didn't fit. The curve was wrong. The structure was off. The numbers started to baffle the team. Then the truth struck like lightning. This wasn't a crocodile. This was a vertebra from a snake. And not just any snake. This was Titanoboa, a creature over 50 feet long, weighing tons. So massive, it instantly rewrote the upper limits of snake size on Earth. A monster born from a climate hotter than any world we've ever known. If you want to explore how this planet once nurtured a snake of such colossal size, comment 1. But just how big was Titanoboa? Scientists measuring those massive vertebrae had to double-check their math again and again. The numbers were almost unreal. From just a few spinal bones, they estimated this creature stretched over 50 feet, more than 15 meters. Its weight ranged from 2,000 to 2,500 pounds, as heavy as a small car. For comparison, the largest anaconda ever recorded reached only 26-30 feet and weighed around 500 pounds. Titanoboa was nearly twice as long and 4 to 5 times as heavy. Not just bigger, it was on a whole new level. The amazing part? Paleontologists didn't even have a full skeleton. They only had vertebrae. But in modern snakes, vertebra size directly relates to body length. This ratio is remarkably consistent. So when Titanoboa's vertebrae were compared to today's boas and anacondas, the estimates were almost certainly accurate. And every calculation led to the same chilling conclusion. This wasn't just the largest snake ever. It could be the largest land predator since the dinosaurs. Imagine it. A body longer than a bus, coiled in tropical swamps, muscles thick like tree trunks, a grip strong enough to crush bone in seconds. A creature whose sheer size reshaped how we understand the limits of reptile biology. The question isn't, how big was it? It's, what kind of world allowed a creature like this to exist? Do these numbers seem believable to you? Comment 1 if you trust the science, or 0 if you're still skeptical. But if Titanoboa was really that big, its size tells us more than just the story of a snake. It tells the story of an entire planet. Snakes are cold-blooded. They don't generate their own body heat. Every move, every heartbeat, every digestive process depends entirely on the environment. And that makes Titanoboa even more incredible than just a giant predator. It was a living, biological thermometer. Think about it this way. The bigger the body, the higher the energy demand. A snake over 50 feet long couldn't survive in a cool climate. If temperatures dropped too low, its metabolism would slow. Blood wouldn't circulate fast enough through 50 feet of body. Muscles would lose power. Digestion would stall. And that giant would become a prisoner of its own size. But the vertebrae at Cerrejón tell a different story. They show that northern Colombia, 58-60 million years ago, had average year-round temperatures of at least 86-90 degrees Fahrenheit. 32 degrees Celsius, with almost no cold season. A world like a giant sauna stretching across the equator. No polar ice, no real winters. Just thick, heavy heat covering jungles and swamps. In that world, biological limits were pushed higher. Higher temperatures meant faster metabolism, faster growth, more efficient digestion, and, most importantly, the ability to sustain a body that today would be impossible. Titanoboa wasn't just a fossilized snake. It was proof that Earth was once far hotter than we imagined. A giant creature nurtured by extreme climate. And if climate could grow monsters, the next question isn't just how big it was, it's how it lived in a world that was literally steaming. Imagine a forest that never knew winter. No cold winds, no frost, no night that ever truly cooled. Only thick, heavy humidity hanging in the air, swamps steaming under the sun, and dense tree canopies forming a dark green dome overhead. This was the Paleocene world ruled by Titanoboa. About 58 million years ago, the region we now call northern Colombia wasn't savanna or rainforest as we know it. It was a super hot swamp maze. Water moved slow, murky, stained dark from decaying leaves. Tree roots tangled everywhere, rotting logs floated, and every sound was swallowed by rain, insects, and thick, sticky air. Cerrejón doesn't just preserve snake bones. It's a time capsule. Every sediment layer holds fossil leaves, ancient fish, giant turtles with shells as wide as pool tables, primitive crocodiles with thick, heavy jaws, not fast chasers, but brutal ambush killers. This wasn't a rushing river ecosystem. It was a world of still waters and dense forests, where visibility was limited and patience was a weapon. In this environment, size wasn't a burden. It was an advantage. Water-supported bodies weighing tons. Mud and shadows hid every movement. High temperatures kept muscles ready. Titanoboa wasn't an anomaly in this scene. It was the logical result of a planet in extreme conditions. High heat, plenty of prey. A swamp maze perfectly designed for a giant ambush predator. And in those dark waters, among fallen trunks and the endless buzz of insects, a creature longer than a bus could drift silently, unnoticed by all. But a creature over 50 feet long didn't need to chase to become a nightmare. In that super hot swamp maze, Titanoboa wasn't a predator rushing through the forest like in the movies. It was too big for that. Over 40 feet of muscle didn't slither fast on land. It dragged, sank, fought its own weight. On land, it was heavy, but in water, it became a ghost. In the Paleocene swamps, Titanoboa behaved more like a giant crocodile than a snake. Slow, silent, half its body submerged in murky water. Only its eyes and nostrils broke the surface, barely causing a ripple. It didn't hunt with speed. It hunted with patience. Hours, maybe days, almost motionless among roots and fallen logs. In a world where vision was blocked by muddy water and thick vegetation, its massive size became an advantage. No need to hide completely, just blend into the shadows. Then the moment came. A giant turtle waded to the water's edge. An ancient crocodile swam by. Maybe a thirsty early mammal stepped too close to shore. The strike didn't last long. Biomechanical models estimate Titanoboa could deliver over 400 pounds per square inches in a constriction enough to crush a crocodile's chest in seconds. At that size, The difference between suffocation and bone crushing barely mattered. Anything caught in those coils had no chance. Water was its ally. Buoyancy supported its massive weight. It cooled the body in the furnace-like climate. It allowed movement without being crushed by its own mass. Forget the image of a snake racing through the forest. Imagine a calm water surface, and beneath it, a massive body drifting silently, waiting until the world moves too close. But if Titanoboa was so perfect in its world, why do we only know it through fossils? Every monster depends on the world that gave it life. And when that world changes, even giants become fragile. After the Paleocene, Earth began to cool. Not overnight. Not with a sudden disaster like the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. The change was slow, almost invisible. But for a creature entirely dependent on its environment like Titanoboa, every drop in temperature was a silent cut. Snakes are cold-blooded. They don't generate their own heat. Titanoboa's body, over 50 feet of muscle, needed a planet as hot as a furnace to function. As global temperatures fell, metabolism slowed. Growth stalled. The ability to digest massive prey weakened. A huge body demands huge energy, and the new world no longer provided enough. Ecosystems shifted with the climate. Dense swamps gradually disappeared or shrank. Plants moved. Crocodiles evolved faster, becoming more efficient and dangerous. Mammals diversified, filling ecological gaps. Competition rose. Food chains restructured. Titanoboa wasn't built for a cooler, more competitive, more flexible world. Size, once the ultimate advantage, became a burden. A body too big to adapt quickly. Too specialized for swamps that no longer existed. And then, without a roar, without a trace of a final battle, Titanoboa vanished from the fossil record. Not because it was weak, but because the planet was no longer its planet. The extinction of Titanoboa wasn't just the death of a giant snake. It was a grim reminder that even rulers thought untouchable are bound by climate, by ecological balance, by slow changes no creature can control. A world once hot enough to raise monsters, cooled, and with it, the largest snake to ever crawl the earth quietly sank into history. The disappearance of Titanoboa is not just the story of a giant creature. It is a warning about how a planet controls the fate of its rulers. Every fossil, every sediment layer at Cerrejón tells the story of a world once hot enough for monsters like Titanoboa to thrive. But the slow changes of the climate, degree by degree, shattered the delicate balance they depended on. No more vast swamps, no more steady heat, no more planet warm enough to sustain such a massive body. The pain isn't just in Titanoboa's extinction. It's in the realization that survival, even at its peak, is fragile, and even the largest giant is just a victim of nature's law. Titanoboa's fossils are living proof of the tight bond between life and environment. They remind us that dominance is temporary, strength is fragile, and adaptation is survival. Looking back, Titanoboa was more than a giant snake. It was a measure of ancient weather, temperature, and life on Earth 60 million years ago. And as we reflect on its extinction, the question is no longer about size or power, but about the planet, about the fragile balance that every species, giant or small, must obey. Titanoboa is gone, but its message echoes: absolute power does not exist, and every creature is bound to the planet it calls home. Titanoboa has been gone for a long time, but its echo still remains. Every fossil, every sediment layer at Cerrejón tells a story of power, of dominance, but also of the unavoidable cost of change. It reminds us that even the giants, the top predators, cannot escape the invisible hand of time and climate. The pain isn't just in the extinction of a giant snake. It's in the awareness of how fragile ecological balance really is. A small shift, a change in temperature, can destroy an entire kingdom of life we once thought untouchable. Titanoboa is a giant mirror, reflecting the deep link between life and environment. It reminds us that absolute power does not exist, and every creature is bound to the planet it calls home. Comment 1 if Titanoboa's story and its message hit you, or 0 if you're not ready to face the harsh reality nature sets. The lesson of Titanoboa remains. A warning, a reminder for all of us.